Okay, it's been a couple of days. Had to go work to earn money so I can buy more rocket stuff. So here's where we're at. It looks like a rocket. The all of this is cured and it's all looking pretty good. Notice I still have the tape over these holes here, so even when I primer it that way, I'll keep it from filling up those threads with paint. So next thing to do here is to make the fillets, and then this will be pretty much done. We can kind of maybe give it some primer. I might go ahead and put some body filler glazing putty on these to kind of fill in these spirals on the body tube. There's the electronics bay. There's something we can work on, but I think I'm going to use this West Systems 610. This is thickened epoxy. I think I've got plenty left in this tube. This stuff works really good. I mean, I realize it's just probably just, good old West Systems 105 resin with some, what they call it, the micro balloons, the silicate inside of it to thicken it. But I've never been able to get it as smooth as what this stuff comes out as. So this is a two-part deal. It's got two sides to this tube, and when it comes out, it's already proportioned right. Then they sell these little static mixer things. It's like a section that you screw on the end, and it's got these little baffles inside of it. So as you squeeze it, it's automatically mixing the two parts together. So when it comes out, it's good to go. Of course, those, once you use that, you can't ever clean it out. So, you use one of those little static mixer things, then when you're done, basically it cures inside and it's done. So, I'm not using a whole bunch of this just for fillets on rockets. So the two that came with it, or one that came with it, I've already used those. I thought I had some extras, but I'm going to try and stop by West Marine today when we go into town and pick up another couple of those static mixers so I can use this. I really recommend the static mixers. What you can do is you can unscrew this, take this out. You can just squirt, put it in your caulk gun, put it into a cup, stir it up, and use it. But the last time I did that on this other Mighty Mick using this stuff, you get a little too enthusiastic when you're mixing the two parts together. And it's pretty thick stuff, like, it's fairly pasty. You get air bubbles in it. And then it's not as smooth when you try and, form your fillets using, a popsicle stick or whatever you're using, a piece of PVC pipe to make it rounded. There's bubbles and stuff in it where you've whipped it up into a frenzy, trying to mix the epoxy together. So the best way to do it, what I'm getting down to, is to use those static mixers. It just adds more to the cost, but when it comes out, you're able to use a caulk gun. You lay the bead down, you form the fillet. There's no air bubbles. It's just a much better way to go. So I'm going to try and do that, try and stop by and get some of that. So I don't want to get started on that yet until I've been by the West Marine store to pick up those things. So for right now, we can work on the electronics bay and also on this nose cone. So the first thing to do on the nose cone, plastic nose cone, it's Estes Maxi Dured Max. First thing to do is to give it a bath in the sink with some, I use Dawn dishwashing soap because it takes the grease, because there's always a little bit of release agent on these things, when they're blow molded or however they make them. So you want to do that. And then I've got some adhesion promoter spray, which works really good, because I've had, let's see if I can find it in my big old, hang on, I'll be back to you in a sec. Found it. So this is what I use, plastic adhesion promoter. So, it's really for automotive, like these plastic bumpers and stuff. And so I'm not sure what magic it does, but, wash and dry this, get all the release agent, whatever you can off of it, dry it. Then you spray this on there, and that'll make, even before your primer. So that will help the paint to stick to this plastic much better. I've actually had some of these plastic nose cones, and I think it might have been another lock cone. But basically, it all went on. I washed it, primered it, painted it, cleaned it, or wet sanded it, made a super smooth, beautiful looking nose cone. And then, temperature changed, or the first time it knocked on the ground, it cracked the paint, and then it just started coming off in sheets. So since then, I use this stuff. So extra tip, I think it works good, and it'll keep that paint from just peeling off the sheets. So anyhow, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go wash the nose cone. I'll come back, and we will give it a spray of this Duplicolor. Okay, the nose cone's been properly washed and dried and ready to go. Got a piece of scrap too. So the adhesion promoter says to give it 2 to 3 light coats, 3 minutes between each coat, then apply top coat within 10 minutes of the last adhesion promoter coat. So I've got this, and I've got some gray auto primer sitting here. So I'm going to put on this, and then after 2 or 3 light coats of this, wait a few minutes while I'm shaking up the primer, and I'll get the primer on. So it all kind of happens at once. So let me shake this up, and we'll get to spraying. Okay, third coat for good measure. Okay, waited the appropriate amount of time, 3 or 4 minutes. My favorite primer, good old Rust-Oleum automotive primer. Okay, try not to go on too thick, but let that dry for a while. Then we'll probably give it some more, maybe sand, and then get some more primer, but then we just kind of start that prime sand process till we get it as smooth as we want. Then we'll go with top coat. So there's that. Watching paint dry. Well, I made it over to West Marine, and I picked up some of these static mixers. So this is what they are. So like I said, when once you used it, that epoxy cures inside of it, and it's pretty much disposable. So what I'm going to do first, before I put this on this and get going with it, I'm going to lay out the fillet. So the fillet tool I'm going to use to shape the fillet is this stick, and this is just one of the West Systems epoxy mixing sticks. So that should make a pretty generous fillet, look nice. And so the thing to do here is, let me see if I can set up this camera so you can see. I usually lay out some tape to just make things neater when you're doing it. So to kind of get an idea of where the fillet ends on each on the fin and on the body tube, what you do is you kind of get a Sharpie, mark the end of your stick, then you kind of just, and it'll kind of mark it out. So now you kind of know when you draw this across that thickened epoxy to shape the fillet, kind of each side of it, I guess I should say. So what I like to do is lay out tape so that when I've shaped all the fillets, I can peel the tape up and it should leave a nice clean edge. So now I kind of know where those are going to be. Okay, I think I'm ready to lay these out. So the West System 610 with the caulking gun. First thing to do is kind of run some through the static mixer part and kind of get things flowing. So can you kind of see it working its way through there? Oh man, yeah, it's thick too. Takes a pretty healthy squeeze to get it. Okay. So just like a caulking gun, let's lay these down, then we'll shape them up. See if that's about the right size of a bead. I'm just making sure that that full contour of that fillet is all the way down. It's shaking because I don't have to squeeze so hard. This stuff is thick. So maybe this old antique caulk gun too. Okay. I think that's it. So now we just start peeling the tape and hopefully we'll leave some nice clean fillets. And we can leave overnight to cure. All right, there's that. This is all trash here. Give it a once over just to see if there's any blatant flaws we don't want to have to deal with after it cures. But I think overall they look pretty good. Kind of, well, you can see that on the video, but they look pretty good.
So now it is leave them alone till they cure.